The massive crystal spires of the Zephyrian royal palace pierced the crimson sky like frozen lightning. Within the highest tower, Emperor Vexthul sat upon his obsidian throne, his 6 arms gesturing dramatically as he addressed the assembled war council. His species had ruled this sector of the galaxy for over 3 millennia, their advanced technology and superior intellect making them the undisputed masters of hundreds of worlds. The human infestation grows bolder. Vexthul's voice resonated through the chamber, causing the smaller council members to tremble. His golden eyes, each the size of a human head, swept across the room. They dare to establish settlements in the outer rim, thinking their primitive vessels can protect them from our might. General Korthax, his scarred carapace bearing the medals of a dozen conquered species, stepped forward. His insectoid features twisted into what passed for a grin among his kind. My lord, these humans are nothing more than hairless apes who stumbled upon faster-than-light travel. Their ships are crude, their weapons laughable. We could crush their entire civilization with a single battle fleet. The Emperor's massive frame leaned forward, his interest piqued. The humans had appeared in their space barely 50 years ago, establishing small colonies and trade routes with the determination of creatures who didn't know their place in the galactic hierarchy. Most species that encountered the Zephyrian Empire either submitted immediately or were obliterated within days. The humans had done neither, which was both amusing and insulting. Tell me more about their capabilities, Vexthul commanded, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. Admiral Sydhra, her blue-scaled skin shimmering under the chamber's artificial suns, activated a holographic display. Images of human ships materialized in the air, their angular designs looking primitive compared to the flowing, organic curves of Zephyrian vessels. Their largest warships carry perhaps 1/100th of our firepower. Their shields are basic energy barriers. Their weapons are kinetic projectiles and crude plasma cannons. Most amusing of all, they still use organic crews instead of proper AI systems. A wave of laughter rippled through the council. The idea of biological beings manually operating starships seemed as absurd as using stone tools to fight energy weapons. The Zephyrians had transcended such limitations centuries ago. Their ships operated by sophisticated artificial minds that could process millions of tactical decisions per second. And yet, interrupted intelligence director Mordun, his telepathic tendrils twitching nervously, they continue to expand. Our automated scout fleets have encountered increasing resistance in the outer sectors. Yesterday, we lost contact with the exploration vessel Infinite Glory near the human colony of New Geneva. The Emperor's expression darkened. The Infinite Glory was one of their newest scout ships, equipped with stealth technology that should have made it invisible to human sensors. It was designed to gather intelligence on primitive species before the main fleets arrived to claim their worlds. For such a vessel to simply vanish was unexpected. Lost contact. Vexthul's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. Explain. Mordun's skin shifted to a pale yellow, a sign of anxiety among his species. The ship was conducting routine surveillance of the human settlement when all transmissions ceased. Long-range sensors detected a brief energy signature consistent with weapons fire. Then, nothing. General Korthax scoffed, his mandibles clicking dismissively. A mechanical failure, surely. These primitive humans couldn't possibly threaten one of our vessels. Their entire space navy couldn't scratch the paint on a proper Zephyrian warship. But Emperor Vexthul was not convinced. His species had not maintained their galactic dominance for 3,000 years by underestimating potential threats. While the humans appeared primitive, something about their persistent expansion into Zephyrian space troubled him. Most species either cowered before the Empire's might or were quickly crushed. The humans seemed to do neither, continuing their steady growth as if unaware of the danger they courted. Deploy a reconnaissance force, the Emperor ordered. I want to know what happened to the Infinite Glory, and I want detailed intelligence on these human capabilities. Use the 3rd Scouting Fleet. Enough firepower to handle any surprises, but not so much as to waste resources on insects. Admiral Swydhra bowed her reptilian head. "It shall be done, my lord. The humans will learn to fear the Zephyrian Empire, as all others have." As the council dispersed to carry out their emperor's commands, none of them noticed the small device hidden among the crystal formations decorating the chamber walls. It had been placed there weeks ago by someone who moved like a shadow, someone whose very existence would have horrified the assembled alien nobility. The device finished recording the meeting and began transmitting its data across space, using quantum entanglement principles that the Zephyrians believed only they understood. Within hours, the intelligence would reach its destination, a small human outpost where a lone figure sat monitoring alien communications, gathering the information that would soon reshape the balance of power in this corner of the galaxy. The Zephyrians had ruled through superior technology and overwhelming force for millennia. They had never faced an enemy that fought with cunning, adaptability, and the sheer bloody-minded determination that characterized humanity's approach to warfare. They were about to learn that there were more ways to win a war than simply having the biggest guns. In the depths of space, the 3rd Scouting Fleet began preparations for departure, its commanders confident they would soon be celebrating another easy victory over primitive aliens. They had no idea they were sailing directly into a trap that had been months in the making, orchestrated by a single human who understood that sometimes the best way to defeat a superior enemy was to let them defeat themselves. The scout ships powered their engines and jumped to hyperspace, carrying with them the seeds of an empire's downfall. Behind them, Emperor Vexthul sat alone on his throne, staring out at the stars and wondering why he felt a strange unease about creatures he should have been able to crush without effort. In the darkness between galaxies, something was stirring, something that would challenge everything the Zephyrians thought they knew about warfare, and the nature of intelligent life itself. Captain Jake Morrison had been tracking the alien fleet for 3 days, his modified stealth ship drifting silently through the asteroid field at the edge of the New Geneva system. The aging scout vessel looked like junk from the outside, its hull scarred and patched from years of dangerous missions, but beneath the battered exterior lay some of the most sophisticated surveillance equipment humanity had ever developed. Jake had volunteered for the Deep Space Reconnaissance Corps 5 years ago, after the first confirmed contact with hostile alien forces. While most people saw the DSR as a suicide mission, he understood its vital importance. You couldn't fight an enemy you didn't understand, and understanding the aliens required getting close enough to study them without being detected. It was dangerous work that required a special kind of crazy, and Jake had always been told he qualified. His ship's passive sensors painted a picture of the approaching Zephyrian force that would have terrified any sane person. 12 vessels, each one larger than humanity's biggest battleship, advancing in perfect formation toward the human colony. Their energy signatures showed weapon systems that could crack a planet's crust and shields strong enough to deflect anything in Earth's arsenal. Any conventional military analysis would conclude that New Geneva was doomed. But Jake wasn't conducting a conventional military analysis. For months, he had been studying Zephyrian tactics, technology, and psychology through careful observation and the intelligence network that few people knew existed. What he had learned suggested that these supposedly superior aliens had a critical weakness, one that humanity could exploit if they were clever enough. The Zephyrians relied entirely on their artificial intelligence systems for combat operations. Their ships were automated to a degree that would make human commanders nervous, with AI minds making split-second tactical decisions without organic oversight. It was undeniably efficient and had served them well for centuries of conquest, but it also created a single point of failure that a sufficiently prepared enemy could target. Jake activated his ship's quantum communication array, establishing a secure link with the defense network surrounding New Geneva. To any outside observer, the colony appeared helpless, its small defense fleet huddled close to the planet like frightened children. What the sensors couldn't detect were the modifications that had been made over the past 6 months, upgrades based on intelligence gathered by scouts like Jake who risked everything to understand their enemies. Phoenix Nest, this is Shadowhawk. Jake transmitted, using the code names that kept identities secret even from their own forces. Package delivery in approximately 6 hours. Recommend all personnel assume defensive positions and prepare for fireworks. The response came immediately from Colonel Sarah Chun, the colony's defense coordinator. Copy that, Shadowhawk. We're ready for the show. Try not to get yourself killed out there. Jake smiled grimly as he began preparations for what would either be humanity's first major victory against the aliens or a spectacular failure that would cost thousands of lives. His ship carried no weapons that could threaten the approaching fleet, but weapons weren't what he needed. Sometimes the best way to win a fight was to turn the enemy's strength against them. The Zephyrian fleet emerged from hyperspace exactly where intelligence had predicted, their massive ships immediately beginning detailed scans of the system. Jake watched from his hiding place as their formation shifted into attack configuration. AI minds calculating optimal firing solutions and defensive positions with mechanical precision. They were preparing to crush the human colony with overwhelming force, just as they had done to hundreds of other worlds. Admiral SYDHRA stood on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Dominion, her scaled features reflecting satisfaction as tactical displays showed the pathetic human defenses. 3 small frigates and a handful of patrol craft huddled around their planet like insects trying to protect their nest. The humans had apparently deployed everything they had to defend this colony, which would make their defeat all the more demoralizing to the remaining human worlds. "Begin the attack," she commanded, her voice carrying across the ship's communication network. "I want their defenses eliminated within 1 hour. Leave the orbital facilities intact. They may prove useful as examples to other primitive species." The Zephyrian ships opened fire with devastating precision, their energy weapons reaching across space to strike the human vessels. To Admiral Swatichura's mild surprise, the humans didn't simply collapse under the first barrage. Their ships began evasive maneuvers that seemed almost too sophisticated for such primitive craft, dodging between asteroids and using the planet's magnetic field to disrupt targeting sensors. "Interesting," she mused, watching the tactical display as human fighters swarmed around her larger ships like angry hornets. These creatures show more tactical awareness than expected. No matter, superior technology will prevail. But as the battle continued, something began to feel wrong. The humans were fighting with a coordination and efficiency that didn't match their supposed technological level. Their ships moved in perfect synchronization. Their attacks targeted specific systems with surgical precision, and their defensive patterns seemed to anticipate Zephyrian tactics before they were even implemented. Hidden in his asteroid hideout, Jake watched the battle unfold according to plan. The human ships weren't trying to win through firepower. They were buying time and positioning the Zephyrian fleet exactly where the trap required them to be. Every movement, every seemingly desperate maneuver was designed to draw the aliens deeper into the system and closer to the real weapon that would decide this battle. The Zephyrian AI systems, for all their sophistication, operated according to predictable patterns that human intelligence had spent months analyzing. They prioritized targets based on threat assessment algorithms, positioned their ships to maximize firepower while minimizing exposure, and coordinated their attacks through quantum entangled communication networks that they believed were impossible to intercept or jam. They were wrong. Deep beneath New Geneva's surface, in a facility that officially didn't exist, Dr. Elena Vasquez made final adjustments to the most ambitious electronic warfare system ever constructed. The Prometheus array had been built specifically to counter Zephyrian AI networks, using principles reverse-engineered from captured alien technology and enhanced with uniquely human innovations in quantum computing and neural network architecture. Array is fully charged and targeting is locked, she reported to the command center. "We have one shot at this, people. If it doesn't work, we're all space dust in 30 minutes. Colonel Chun studied the tactical display, showing the Zephyrian fleet moving into optimal position. The aliens had no idea they were walking into a carefully laid trap, their confidence in their technological superiority blinding them to the possibility that primitive humans might have found a way to turn their greatest strength into a fatal weakness. All units, prepare for Operation Prometheus, she ordered. Let's show these aliens that humanity doesn't go down without a fight. In space above the planet, Admiral SYTHR felt the first tremor of unease as her tactical officers reported anomalous readings from the planet's surface. Energy signatures were spiking in patterns that didn't match any known human technology, and several of her ships were reporting minor communication disruptions that shouldn't have been possible given their advanced shielding. She was about to order an investigation when Jake Morrison made his move, dropping his ship's stealth systems and broadcasting a message on all Zephyrian frequencies. His words would be remembered in the histories of both species, marking the moment when humanity announced itself as a force to be reckoned with in the galaxy. Attention, Zephyrian fleet. You came here expecting to crush a primitive human colony. Instead, you're about to learn why our species doesn't stay conquered. Welcome to humanity's first lesson in tactical innovation, the Prometheus Array, activated with a pulse of energy that rippled through subspace like a stone thrown into still water. Dr. Elena Vasquez watched her instruments with the intensity of a surgeon performing life-or-death surgery, her fingers dancing across holographic controls as she fine-tuned the array's output to match the quantum frequencies of Zephyrian AI networks. Above the planet, Admiral SYTHR felt her confidence evaporate as warning lights began flashing across every console on her flagship's bridge. The ship's primary AI, a sophisticated system called the Eternal Mind, suddenly began broadcasting contradictory tactical assessments. One moment it reported all human vessels destroyed, the next it claimed the human fleet had tripled in size. Targeting systems locked onto empty space while ignoring obvious threats, and communication networks started transmitting random data instead of coordinated battle plans. What is happening? SYTHR demanded, her usually calm demeanor cracking as chaos erupted around her. How are these primitives affecting our systems? Her chief technician, a nervous creature called Vexmin, frantically worked at his control station while sweat-like secretions dripped from his pale skin. Admiral, something is interfering with our quantum communication protocols. The ship's AI is receiving conflicting data streams that are overloading its decision-making matrices. Across the Zephyrian fleet, similar scenes of confusion played out as the Prometheus Array systematically dismantled 3,000 years of technological superiority. The device didn't destroy the alien AI systems. That would have been too crude and ultimately temporary. Instead, it fed them carefully crafted false information designed to exploit the logical pathways that made artificial minds so efficient in normal circumstances. Human engineers had spent months studying captured Zephyrian technology, learning how their AI systems processed information and made decisions. What they discovered was that alien artificial minds, for all their sophistication, operated according to rigid logical frameworks that prioritized efficiency over adaptability. They were perfect for managing known variables, but became catastrophically unreliable when faced with impossible scenarios that challenged their fundamental assumptions. Jake Morrison watched the alien fleet's formation begin to dissolve as ships started moving in seemingly random directions. Some vessels were firing on empty space, while others had shut down their weapons entirely. The massive flagship was rotating slowly, apparently trying to target threats that existed only in its confused AI's perception of reality. All human units, commence Phase 2. Colonel Chun ordered from the command center. Let's give them something real to worry about. The human defense fleet, which had been playing dead for the past 20 minutes, suddenly roared back to life. But these weren't the same ships the aliens had been fighting earlier. While the Prometheus Array had been doing its work, human engineers had activated dozens of hidden weapon systems and defense platforms that had been disguised as orbital debris and asteroid mining equipment. What the Zephyrians had dismissed as a few pathetic patrol craft was actually a carefully camouflaged fleet of advanced warships using human innovations in stealth technology and modular design. The entire New Geneva system had been turned into a massive trap, with weapons and sensors hidden throughout the asteroid belt and even embedded in the planet's orbital installations. Captain Lisa Rodriguez commanded the real human flagship, a vessel called the Indomitable that had been disguised as a civilian transport. As soon as the alien AI systems went haywire, she ordered her crew to drop all pretenses and engage the enemy with everything they had. Her ship's weapons weren't as individually powerful as Zephyrian systems, but they were designed specifically to exploit the weaknesses that human intelligence had identified. Target their command ship first, she ordered her weapons officer. Let's see how well they fight when their admiral can't tell her fleet what to do. The Indomitable's main guns fired a barrage of specially designed projectiles that passed harmlessly through Zephyrian shields, which were calibrated to stop energy weapons and conventional explosives. Instead, the projectiles contained sophisticated electronic warfare packages that attached themselves to the alien ship's hulls and began broadcasting additional false signals directly into their communication networks. Admiral SYDHRA watched in horror as her fleet fell apart around her. Ships that had operated in perfect coordination for centuries were now firing on each other, their AI systems convinced that neighboring vessels had been taken over by enemy forces. The Eternal Mind was reporting that her own flagship was surrounded by hundreds of human battleships, while her visual displays showed only empty space and the chaotic movements of her own confused fleet. Shut down all AI systems, she ordered desperately. Switch to manual control. But Vexman could only shake his head in defeat. Admiral, our entire fleet is designed for AI operation. Manual control systems were removed centuries ago as unnecessary complications. Without the artificial minds, we cannot operate weapons, navigation, or life support systems. This was the critical insight that human intelligence had developed after months of studying alien technology. The Zephyrians had become so dependent on artificial intelligence that they had forgotten how to fight without it. Their ships were technological marvels, but they were also single points of failure that could be neutralized by targeting their electronic brains rather than their physical components. Jake Morrison brought his scout ship out of hiding and began broadcasting on all frequencies, his message reaching both human and alien forces throughout the system. Admiral SYDHRA, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the Terran Deep Space Reconnaissance Corps. Your fleet is disabled and at our mercy. I'm offering you one chance to surrender and withdraw from human space peacefully. The alien admiral's response crackled with rage and disbelief. You think your primitive tricks make you our equals? The Zephyrian Empire has ruled this galaxy for 3 millennia. We will not be defeated by insects who barely learned to leave their home world. Jake's reply was calm, but carried an edge of steel that made even the aliens listening understand that humanity was not the same species they had dismissed as harmless primitives. Admiral, you came here with 12 ships, expecting an easy victory over defenseless colonists. Instead, you found a prepared enemy who turned your greatest advantage into your greatest weakness. Your AI systems are compromised, your fleet is in chaos, and you're completely at our mercy. This is what happens when you underestimate humanity. Dr. Vasquez continued refining the Prometheus array's output, ensuring that the alien AI systems remained locked in their confused state while avoiding permanent damage to the ships themselves. The goal wasn't to destroy the Zephyrian fleet. That would only provoke a larger response from their empire. Instead, the plan was to demonstrate that humanity was not helpless prey, but a dangerous opponent that could fight back with weapons the aliens had never imagined. Throughout the New Geneva system, hidden human forces revealed themselves as the full scope of the trap became apparent. What had looked like a single vulnerable colony was actually a fortress system that had been months in preparation. Automated defense platforms emerged from camouflage positions among the asteroids, their weapons trained on the disabled alien vessels. Support ships decloaked to begin rescue operations for any aliens who might be injured in the chaos, demonstrating that humanity could be merciful to defeated enemies. The message was clear. Humanity was not just capable of defeating Zephyrian forces, but doing so while maintaining moral superiority. They could have destroyed the entire alien fleet while it was helpless, but chose instead to offer terms for peaceful withdrawal. It was a demonstration of strength tempered by wisdom, exactly the kind of message that would resonate throughout the galaxy as news of this battle spread. Admiral SYDH found herself facing an impossible choice. She could order her ships to fight with manual systems, knowing they would be slaughtered by the prepared human defenses, or she could accept defeat and return to face Emperor Vexthal's wrath. Either way, her career and possibly her life were over. But as she looked at the tactical displays showing her fleet in complete disarray, she realized that her personal fate was less important than the message this defeat would send to the Empire. For the first time in Zephyrian history, a technologically superior fleet had been defeated by an allegedly primitive species. The ramifications would shake the foundations of everything their civilization believed about its place in the galaxy. The silence stretched across space as Admiral Swytichura contemplated her options. Around her, the bridge of the Eternal Dominion had become a monument to technological failure. Screens flickered between impossible readings and complete darkness, while the ship's once mighty AI systems babbled contradictory information like a computer virus had infected their electronic minds. Which, in a way, was exactly what had happened. Through the chaos, she could see the human ships moving with calm precision around her disabled fleet. They weren't attacking or gloating over their victory. Instead, they had formed a defensive perimeter and were broadcasting emergency frequencies in case any Zephyrian vessels needed assistance. It was a level of professionalism that Admiral SYDH found more disturbing than any display of raw firepower would have been. "Admiral," Vexman called out from his station, his voice trembling with barely controlled panic. "I'm detecting massive energy buildups throughout the system. The humans have weapon platforms hidden everywhere, in the asteroid belt, the orbital stations, even embedded in what we thought were communication satellites. If they wanted to destroy us, we wouldn't last 5 minutes." Jake Morrison's voice cut through the communication static, calm and patient despite the magnitude of what had just occurred. "Admiral SYDH, I'm going to explain what just happened so you can report accurately to your Emperor. Your ships aren't damaged in any permanent way. Our Prometheus array is specifically designed to disrupt AI networks without causing physical harm to your crews or vessels. We could have destroyed your entire fleet, but that's not who we are." The alien admiral's response came slowly, as if she was struggling to process the implications of his words. "What do you want, human?" "Simple," Jake replied. "We want your empire to understand that humanity isn't going anywhere. We're not aggressive conquerors like some species, but we won't be victims either. You can choose to coexist with us peacefully, or you can learn the hard way that we're more dangerous than you assumed. Today was just a demonstration. A single scout like me and one colony's defenses defeated a fleet that could have conquered most civilizations. Imagine what we could do if you forced us to take the gloves off." In the command center beneath New Geneva's surface, Colonel Chun monitored the conversation while her staff analyzed the complete intelligence windfall they had just acquired. The disabled Zephyrian ships were broadcasting terabytes of data as their confused AI systems tried to re-establish normal operations. Human cryptographers were already working to decode alien communication protocols, tactical databases, and star charts that would reveal the locations of other Zephyrian installations. Dr. Vasquez made subtle adjustments to the Prometheus array, demonstrating human control over the alien fleet by selectively allowing some AI systems to partially recover, while keeping others completely disabled. It was a precise show of force that proved humanity could turn their enemy's technology on and off like a light switch. "The beauty of this system," she explained to Colonel Chun, is that it doesn't just work against Zephyrians. Any species that relies heavily on artificial intelligence for their military operations will be vulnerable to similar attacks. We've essentially developed a universal weapon against technological civilizations. Meanwhile, aboard the Eternal Dominion, Admiral HFY was coming to the horrifying realization that her empire's entire military doctrine was fundamentally flawed. For 3,000 years, the Zephyrians had conquered through technological superiority, believing that advanced AI systems and overwhelming firepower made them invincible. They had never encountered an enemy that fought with cunning and adaptability instead of raw force. The humans had spent months studying Zephyrian tactics and technology, identifying weaknesses that the aliens themselves didn't know existed. While the Empire's leaders dismissed humanity as primitive, human scouts like Morrison were learning everything they needed to know to defeat supposedly superior enemies. It was a level of strategic thinking that went far beyond anything the Zephyrians had prepared for. "Vexmin," the admiral said quietly, "how long would it take to modify our ships for manual operation?" The technician's skin shifted to a darker shade as he considered the question. "Admiral, such modifications would require complete reconstruction of our control systems. The work would take months, possibly years, and would reduce our operational efficiency by orders of magnitude. Our entire civilization is built around AI integration. Removing it would be like asking you to function without your nervous system." This was the trap that the Zephyrian Empire had built for itself through centuries of technological advancement. They had become so dependent on artificial intelligence that they had lost the ability to function without it. Their ships, their weapons, their entire military infrastructure was controlled by electronic minds that could be compromised by an enemy clever enough to understand how they worked. Jake Morrison's scout ship moved closer to the alien flagship, his sensors recording everything for the intelligence analyst who would spend months studying this encounter. "Admiral, I'm going to offer you something that might help you save face when you return home. My government is prepared to exchange some of our personnel as a gesture of good faith. You can tell your emperor that you captured human prisoners for interrogation." It was a diplomatic lifeline that showed remarkable understanding of alien psychology. Admiral HFY would need to explain her defeat to Emperor Vexthul, and having prisoners to present might soften the blow of losing an entire fleet to what should have been an easy target. The fact that the humans were voluntarily offering hostages demonstrated a level of confidence that was almost insulting. "Why would you do this?" the admiral asked, suspicion clear in her voice. "Because we want your emperor to have accurate information about human capabilities," Jake replied. "The volunteers who come with you will be intelligence officers who can explain exactly how we defeated your fleet and what it means for future encounters. Think of them as educational consultants." Colonel Chun smiled as she monitored the exchange. The prisoners would actually be some of humanity's best intelligence operatives, trained to gather information about Zephyrian society and technology while appearing to be captured colonists. They would learn everything they could about the alien empire's military capabilities, political structure, and potential weaknesses while feeding carefully crafted disinformation to their captors. Dr. Vasquez began slowly restoring limited function to the Zephyrian AI systems, allowing their ships to maintain life support and basic navigation while keeping weapons and communication networks compromised. It was a clear demonstration that humanity could control the level of the aliens' helplessness, turning their technological dependence into a leash that could be tightened or loosened at will. "Your ships are being restored to minimal operational status," Jake announced. "You'll be able to return to your territory, but your weapons and advanced sensors will remain offline until you're well away from human space. Consider it a safety measure for both our peoples." Admiral HFY felt a mixture of relief and humiliation as her ship's basic systems came back online. The Eternal Dominion could fly again, but it was effectively defenseless and would remain so until they were far from the human colony. It was a calculated insult that emphasized humanity's complete control over the situation. "Before you go," Jake added, I want you to deliver a message to Emperor Vexthal. Tell him that humanity offers friendship to those who treat us with respect, but we're prepared to defend ourselves against anyone who sees us as easy prey. What happened here today was just a small sample of our capabilities. We hope the Emperor is wise enough to choose cooperation over conflict. As the Zephyrian fleet began its humiliating withdrawal from human space, carrying news that would shake their empire to its foundations, Jake Morrison settled back into his pilot chair and began composing his mission report. The first phase of humanity's integration into galactic politics was complete, and they had announced themselves not as conquerors or victims, but as a force that demanded respect through demonstrated capability. The real test would come when Emperor Vexthal decided how to respond to this unprecedented defeat. But regardless of what the aliens chose to do next, the galaxy now knew that humanity was not going to disappear quietly into the darkness. They had proven that superior technology could be defeated by superior tactics, and that sometimes the best way to win a war was to show your enemy that fighting was not in their best interest. Emperor Vexthal's roar of rage shattered the crystal formations decorating his throne room, sending razor-sharp fragments cascading to the floor like deadly rain. Before him, Admiral Swidehra knelt in the traditional position of absolute defeat, her once proud uniform stripped of its medals and honors. Behind her stood 3 human prisoners, their calm demeanor more unnerving than any display of fear or defiance would have been. "Explain to me." The Emperor's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper that made the assembled court members step back in terror. "How a single primitive scout and a handful of colonists defeated the 3rd Scouting Fleet. Explain how creatures who barely learned to leave their home planet accomplished what no enemy has managed in 3 millennia of Zephyrian dominance." Admiral Swidehra's response came in broken syllables, each word carved from her throat by the humiliation of absolute defeat. "My lord, the humans possess capabilities we did not anticipate. They have developed weapons specifically designed to counter our AI systems. Our technological advantage became our greatest weakness when they turned our own minds against us." General Korthax stepped forward, his scarred carapace reflecting the throne room's artificial suns. "Impossible. No primitive species could develop such sophisticated countermeasures. These humans have barely existed in space for 50 years, while our empire has perfected its technology over millennia." One of the human prisoners, a woman wearing the simple uniform of a colonial administrator, spoke for the first time since entering the throne room. Her voice carried no trace of fear or intimidation, despite standing before beings who could order her death with a gesture. "General, if I may respectfully disagree, your empire's mistake was assuming that technological advancement follows only one path. You achieved superiority through artificial intelligence and overwhelming firepower. We achieved it through adaptability and strategic thinking." The Emperor's massive eyes focused on the human with the intensity of solar flares. "You dare to speak without permission in the Imperial presence." "Forgive me, Your Majesty," the woman replied with a slight bow that somehow managed to be respectful without appearing subservient. "I am Dr. Sarah Martinez, Chief Science Officer for the New Geneva Colony. Captain Morrison thought you might want to hear our perspective on recent events directly from the source." Intelligence Director Moore Dunn's telepathic tendrils writhed as he probed the human's surface thoughts, searching for deception or hidden information. What he found disturbed him more than any lie would have. The woman's mind showed no fear of death, no desperate schemes for escape, only calm confidence and a level of preparation that suggested this entire encounter had been anticipated and planned for. "What exactly are you?" he asked, his mental voice carrying undertones of growing unease. Dr. Martinez smiled with the patience of a teacher explaining basic concepts to a struggling student. "We're human beings, Director. We're a species that survived ice ages, global wars, plagues, and countless other extinction events through one simple principle. We adapt faster than our challenges can kill us. When we encountered your empire, We didn't try to match your firepower or copy your technology. We studied you until we understood how to defeat you. Emperor Vexthal leaned forward on his throne, his interest overriding his anger as he began to grasp the true implications of what had occurred at New Geneva. You're saying this defeat was not an accident or a lucky victory. You're claiming it was the result of deliberate preparation. Not just preparation, Your Majesty, replied another prisoner, a man whose military bearing was unmistakable despite his civilian clothes. Strategic doctrine. What happened to Admiral Eswatitura's fleet was the first field test of tactics we've been developing specifically for use against technological civilizations like yours. The results exceeded our expectations. Admiral Eswatitira felt her skin grow cold as the full scope of her defeat became clear. The humans hadn't stumbled onto a way to counter Zephyrian technology through luck or accident. They had systematically studied their enemies, identified critical weaknesses, and developed weapons specifically designed to exploit those vulnerabilities. It was a level of strategic planning that went far beyond anything the Empire had encountered before. General Korthax's mandibles clicked with nervous energy as he processed this information. If this is true, then our entire military doctrine is compromised. Every AI-dependent civilization in the galaxy could be vulnerable to these tactics. The third human prisoner, who had remained silent until now, finally spoke with the authority of someone accustomed to command. General, our intelligence services estimate that approximately 70% of spacefaring civilizations rely heavily on artificial intelligence for military operations. Of those, roughly half have made the same mistake your empire did, becoming so dependent on AI systems that they've lost the ability to function without them. Emperor Vexthal rose from his throne, his massive frame casting shadows across the chamber as he began to pace. The implications of what he was hearing threatened everything his empire had built over 3,000 years of conquest and expansion. If the humans could neutralize AI-dependent fleets at will, then the technological superiority that maintained Zephyrian dominance was meaningless. "What do you want?" he asked finally, the question emerging with the weight of genuine curiosity rather than imperial command. Dr. Martinez exchanged glances with her companions before answering. "The same thing we've wanted since first contact, Your Majesty. Peaceful coexistence. Humanity has no interest in conquering your empire or dominating other species. We simply want the right to exist and expand according to our own destiny." The demonstration at New Geneva was meant to show that attacking us would be unprofitable. The Emperor's laugh was devoid of humor, carrying undertones of respect for an enemy who had outmaneuvered him completely. Unprofitable? Yes, I suppose it would be. If one human scout and a single colony's defenses can disable an entire fleet, imagine what your full military could accomplish if we forced you to reveal more of your capabilities. Intelligence Director Mordun stepped forward, his telepathic abilities working frantically to process the flood of new information and its implications. "My lord, if we accept these claims at face value, humanity represents a completely new type of threat. They don't compete with us technologically. They've found ways to make technology irrelevant to military outcomes." "Not irrelevant," corrected the military officer among the prisoners. "Redirected. Your ships are still magnificently advanced, your weapons are still incredibly powerful, and your shields are still nearly impenetrable. We just taught your AI systems to use all that power against each other instead of against us. It's a bit like convincing your own sword to cut your own hand instead of your enemy." Admiral Switeichera finally understood the true scope of her defeat and why the Emperor's rage had been replaced by thoughtful calculation. The humans hadn't just won a battle. They had demonstrated that the fundamental assumptions underlying Zephyrian military supremacy were false. Every conquered species in the galaxy would eventually learn about this victory, and many would begin wondering if their own defeats had been inevitable or simply the result of fighting the wrong kind of war. General Korthax voiced the question that everyone in the throne room was thinking. What happens now? Do we mobilize the entire Imperial fleet and crush these humans before their influence spreads to our subject species? Dr. Martinez answered before the Emperor could respond, her tone suggesting she had anticipated this exact question. General, with respect, mobilizing your entire fleet would only provide us with a larger laboratory for testing our capabilities. Every ship you send gives us more opportunities to study your technology and refine our countermeasures. The more you escalate, the more devastating your eventual defeat becomes. Emperor Vexthul felt something he had not experienced in centuries of absolute rule: uncertainty. The humans had maneuvered him into a position where every available option carried unacceptable risks. Attack them and face the possibility of losing his entire military to enemies who turn technology against itself. Ignore them and watch their influence spread throughout the galaxy as other species learned that the mighty Zephyrian Empire could be defeated by clever tactics and superior preparation. You're offering us a choice, he said finally, understanding the true nature of the trap that had been laid for him. Submit to peaceful coexistence or face defeat. The human prisoners exchanged another series of glances before Dr. Martinez delivered their final message. Your Majesty, we're offering you something far more valuable than either submission or defeat. We're offering you partnership. Humanity has proven we could defend ourselves, but we have no interest in ruling over other species. We want allies, not subjects. Trading partners, not conquered territories. The galaxy is vast enough for both our peoples to prosper if we choose cooperation over conflict. As Emperor Vexthul contemplated this unprecedented offer, the three humans stood calmly before his throne, representing a species that had announced itself to the galaxy not through conquest or submission, but through demonstrated capability and offered friendship. In the space of a single battle, they had transformed themselves from insignificant primitives to a force that demanded respect and consideration from the galaxy's most powerful empire. The age of easy conquest was over. The age of humanity had begun. And across the stars, other species would soon learn that sometimes the most dangerous enemies were those who offered peace with one hand while proving their ability to wage war with the other.